When a local street gang cornered this quiet drifter, they thought they'd found an easy target, unaware he's a deserting foreign legionnaire who dismantles underground fighters for a living, and they are about to learn why you never pick a fight with a stranger. Before this drifter, Lyon, ever steps into an underground ring, the nightmare driving his entire journey begins in Los Angeles. His brother, Francois, gets double-crossed by drug dealers, doused in gasoline, and set on fire. Francois desperately tries to put out the flames, but by the time help arrives, he's already fighting for his life. His wife, Helene, and young daughter Nicole are still struggling to process what happened when a nurse delivers even worse news. Francois' insurance has expired. The doctor asks whether any relatives can help, but Helene explains they have no one. When she steps away, she comes face to face with her badly injured husband, who can only cry out for one person, his brother.
Lyon! Lyon!
Meanwhile, Lyon is working his ass off in Djibouti, North Africa, as a soldier in the French Foreign Legion when two men arrive with mail for him. One toys with the letter until Lyon snatches it away with a knife, and after reading it, he storms straight to his commanding officer. Helene tried contacting him 2 weeks ago, yet nobody told him. The commander reminds Lyon that his duty belongs to the Legion, but Lyon fires back that his brother's life is at stake, and he could already be dead. Unaware that this soldier is about to desert the military, cross an ocean, and turn every street bully in America into a target, the commander couldn't care less. As far as he's concerned, Lyon gave up his family the moment he joined the Legion. Lyon insists he never agreed to that and demands permission to see his brother, only for the commander to sentence him to 2 weeks of hard labor. When Lyon keeps pushing, the man threatens to extend his remaining 6 months in North Africa to 6 years. Lyon curses him out, earning an even harsher punishment, confinement in the sweatbox. Unfortunately for them, getting Lyon into one proves easier than keeping him there. While the soldiers attempt to lock him away, Lyon overpowers every one of them, steals a Ferrari, and escapes the camp. The commander orders his men to get him a labubu, but they're unable to find one on time. By evening, there's still no sign of Lyon, though the commander is convinced either the wogs or the desert will finish the job for him. Lyon keeps staggering through the wilderness until he finally reaches the ocean. By the following morning, legionnaires are searching a cargo ship for him. Lyon has already changed into civilian clothes and tries slipping away when a massive crewman orders him back below deck. With no legal way to reach America, Lyon works brutal shifts below deck in exchange for passage. Back in Africa, his commander reports the escape to a senior official and hopes the Los Angeles police can arrest Lyon once he reaches the States. The official sarcastically suggests they might get around to it if they aren't too busy catching actual criminals. Furious, the commander promises that if the cops fail, he'll deal with Lyon himself. Lyon continues breaking his back in the ship's boiler room and eventually tries reaching the upper deck, only for Captain Meatloaf to send him right back down. He later sneaks out anyway and realizes the ship has already docked in New York. When the ship's mate orders him back to work, Lyon reminds him that New York was the destination they agreed on. The mate tries taking advantage of his situation, pointing out that Lyon has no green card and is technically a traitor to the French government, but his threats don't last long. Within seconds, Lyon has him dangling over the side of the ship. He chooses not to drop him, jumps into the ocean instead, and swims toward the mainland, unarmed, broke, and seconds away from walking straight into his very first underground deathmatch. After reaching New York, Lyon wanders through the city until he notices a crowd gathered around a street fight. Spectators are throwing money around and betting on the fighters, and once the match ends, the organizer Joshua asks whether anyone else wants to step up. Lyon immediately volunteers, seeing an opportunity to earn the cash he needs to reach Los Angeles. He introduces himself as Lyon, but the name doesn't exactly electrify the crowd, so Joshua upgrades him to Lion, King of the Jungle. Unfortunately, his first opponent looks less like a man and more like King Kong. Almost everyone bets on the giant, convinced Lyon is about to wake up in an operating room, while Joshua questions every decision that led him to this moment, and reveals that he's apparently the only idiot betting on Lyon. Joshua begs him not to ruin his finances, and the fight begins. King Kong charges, but Lyon effortlessly slips his attacks and starts picking him apart. He toys with the giant, knocks him straight into his own supporters, then finishes him with a karate kick. The entire crowd goes quiet. Lyon casually walks over to Joshua, pulls the winnings from his pocket, takes his share, and drops chomp change back inside before walking away. Joshua immediately chases after him, complaining that he didn't receive his full cut. A short while later, Lyon tries calling calling Los Angeles while Joshua destroys a sandwich like it's the Last Supper. Joshua offers him some food before asking why he's so desperate to reach LA. Once Leon explains enough for him to understand the situation, Joshua offers to help, but first, there are some people Leon needs to meet. He brings Leon to an upscale building and asks to see Cynthia, a wealthy promoter who organizes exclusive underground fights for rich spectators. The guards treat Joshua worse than a dog with rabies, but Cynthia's right-hand man, Russell, eventually comes outside. Russell says Cynthia is busy and tells them to come back another time, but Joshua insists this can't wait and starts hyping Leon's fighting ability. Russell tries intimidating him, quickly realizes Leon isn't an easy pawn, and finally agrees to take them inside. Cynthia immediately takes an interest in Leon. Joshua once again introduces him as Lion, king of the jungle, but Cynthia finds the nickname distasteful and asks for his real name instead. Leon tells her, revealing his French background in the process, and answers her questions with enough attitude that Joshua has to plead on his behalf. Cynthia doesn't mind though. As long as Leon can put on a show, she's willing to give him a chance. Right on cue, they watch one of her fighters beat another opponent to smithereens and finish him in the most savage way possible. The winner approaches Cynthia for approval, but she barely acknowledges him before turning her attention back to Leon and asking whether he's really willing to risk damaging that handsome face. Leon says nothing, so Joshua points him toward the ring. Cynthia orders one of her minions to introduce him properly, and once the betting starts, most of the room puts its money on Sonny, the ruthless fighter Leon just watched destroy someone. Cynthia and Joshua bet on Leon. Sonny makes the first move, but Leon slips the attack and ends the fight almost immediately with a devastating punch to the groin. Sonny's supporters start shouting for him to get back up, with one man even insisting Sonny can still beat Leon. Leon immediately challenges the loudmouth to prove it himself, shutting him right up. Joshua steps between them and declares Leon the winner. Inside Cynthia's limo afterward, she makes one thing clear. Leon is never to insult her personnel again. If someone causes trouble, she and Russell already pay security to handle it. More importantly, Cynthia wants to know why Leon is so determined to leave for Los Angeles when she has another fight lined up in a week. Leon refuses to budge, forcing her to ask what could possibly be waiting for him there. Joshua suggests Leon return after handling his business, but Leon explains that fighting was only a means to help his family. Once he gets to LA, he has no intention of doing it again. Cynthia reminds him that he just earned $5,000 in one night, which is pretty substantial for a one-night stand, but Leon still orders the car stopped. As he gets out, Cynthia warns Joshua that $5,000 won't stretch nearly as far as Leon thinks and hands him her business card in case his new fighter changes his mind. Joshua runs after Leon, increasingly offended at being ignored, until Leon finally pulls out some money to pay him. Joshua practically panics. Flashing that much cash on this street is a fantastic way for both of them to get robbed. He points Leon toward a payphone instead, but a local gang immediately blocks their path and asks whether Leon thinks he can just use their property. Joshua catches the warning and tries steering them somewhere else, but Leon completely misses the cue and offers to pay. Joshua quickly claims Leon has no money, declares himself the money man, and informs the gang that they aren't getting shit from either of them. Naturally, they attack. Leon demolishes them so easily that it's almost a disgrace. The gang scatters while Joshua grabs their pathetic leader and asks whether Leon still wants to use the phone, but Leon decides he's good. Not long afterward, the two are aboard their limited edition private jet heading west. Joshua offers to buy him lunch, and Leon accepts, but makes one thing clear: none of this is changing his mind about fighting for Cynthia. The moment Leon reaches Los Angeles, he races straight to the hospital, only to discover he is already too late. Francois died a week ago. Heartbroken, Leon asks who killed him, but the doctor can only say drug dealers were probably involved. Rather than chasing revenge, he urges Leon to focus on the family his brother left behind. Outside, Joshua calls after him, but Leon brushes him off, wanting to process the loss alone. Joshua follows anyway. While Leon forces himself to eat, his new friend approaches again, and Leon finally gives in to the man's unbelievable persistence. He asks Joshua to help locate the address Helene left at the hospital. Joshua points him in the right direction, and when Leon arrives, the first person he encounters is a little girl playing with a ball. He asks whether she knows a woman named Helene. The girl admits she does, but explains that her mother told her never to speak with strangers. Leon quickly realizes he's talking to his 5-year-old niece, Nicole. When she asks whether that still makes them strangers, Leon tells her they are until her mother says otherwise. Before he can explain more, Helene's landlord appears, loudly demanding the remaining $450 she owes in rent. Nicole figures this might be the perfect time for Leon to introduce himself and leads him upstairs. Helene immediately sends Nicole inside before turning on Leon. She had desperately tried contacting him while Francois was still alive, and now he has finally shown up after it no longer matters. Leon explains that he came as soon as he learned what happened and put himself in serious trouble just to get here, but Helene reminds him that Francois's final wish was simply to see his brother before he died. Her anger runs deeper than that. She blames Leon for leaving Francois behind instead of allowing him to take responsibility for his own crimes and go to jail. Leon argues that Francois was a smart kid with a future, while Helene was pregnant, and he couldn't bring himself to let his brother throw everything away. Helene fires back that the streets Leon left him on are exactly what ended up killing him. Leon insists it was still better that way, but Helene just slams the door in his face. He calls through it, reminding her that she and Nicole are the only family he has left and that he only wants to help. He tries leaving money behind, but Helene opens the door, kicks it away, and warns him to leave before she calls the police. Downstairs, Joshua is casually enjoying some KFC and offers some to a thoroughly defeated Leon. Leon tells him he needs something stronger. Joshua takes him drinking and suggests they go dancing, but Leon admits he has personal business to deal with. When Joshua asks whether he needs help, Leon finally says yes. By the end of the night, Joshua is guiding a drunk Leon into a taxi and promising to introduce him to some close friends. They arrive at a luxurious hotel where Joshua tells Leon to relax while he disappears into another room. Leon collapses onto the bed and wakes the next morning to find Cynthia working out in the adjoining room. He immediately tries leaving, only to discover one small problem. He's completely naked. Leon demands his clothes, but Cynthia casually informs him that she had someone burn them. Instead, she hands him a robe and tells him there's a store across the street where they can find him something much nicer. At the clothing store, Cynthia casually walks in while Leon is changing, prompting an awkward employee to ask whether everything is okay. The two spend some time together afterward, before returning to the hotel, where Cynthia invites Leon into her room. He refuses and chooses to stay with Joshua instead. The following morning, Helene walks Nicole to school, while a man from the French Foreign Legion watches from a distance. Leon is nearby as well, hiding behind a tree before secretly following Helene to her workplace. He later returns to Nicole's school and helps his niece with her ball, but another woman quickly pulls the girl away before he can get any closer. By the time Leon returns to the hotel, his mind is made up. He tells Cynthia he'll fight for her after all, but only under certain conditions. First, he wants the money placed into an account under someone else's name. Cynthia agrees to contact her accountant, but Leon isn't finished. He also wants out of the hotel because the luxurious lifestyle is too soft for him. Cynthia immediately suspects there might be someone softer waiting outside and angrily tells him to leave. From now on, he is to deal strictly with Russell and provide his new address. Whatever existed between them before is now officially business. Soon enough, Leon is back in the ring. Joshua mocks his opponent for showing up in a skirt while the fighter approaches Leon with his arms stretched out. Leon mistakes the gesture for a handshake and gets sucker punched before the fight is even announced. He quickly answers with a shot to the stomach, but this opponent is far tougher than the men he's faced before and starts beating Leon badly. Leon absorbs the punishment, takes control, and eventually unloads enough strikes to leave the man unable to continue. The following day, Joshua puts on a disguise and visits Helene as Mr. Eldridge, an insurance representative, while another Legionnaire secretly watches the house. Nicole immediately wonders whether his visit means she can finally get a new bike, and Helene sends her into the other room before hearing what Joshua has to say. He presents her with a huge check and claims Francois had taken out an insurance policy before his death, meaning she'll now receive monthly payments. Helene accepts the explanation, completely unaware that every dollar is actually coming from Leon's underground fights. Leon keeps earning the money the only way he can, stepping into another fight where his opponent throws him around like a plush pillow. Leon eventually gets back up and retaliates with a barrage of kicks, finishing the fight by sending the man crashing through glass. With the payments taken care of for now, Leon uses one of his jogging sessions to secretly check on Nicole. He finds her riding a new bike, giving him proof that the money is reaching his family even if they still don't know where it really came from. Unfortunately, Leon isn't the only one watching. The Legionnaire stationed Legion nearby spots him and wakes his partner, and the two immediately rush after him. Helene sees them coming and quickly calls Nicole inside. Lyon manages to avoid them for the moment, but he still has Cynthia's fights to survive. His next match takes place inside a nearly empty swimming pool, where his opponent kicks him in the face and forces him into the water. Lyon fights back, only to get shoved underwater. He powers his way free, gets back to his feet, and starts kicking the man in some very vital spots before hauling him out of the pool. Afterward, Cynthia confronts Joshua about Helene Gaultier. She has discovered that Lyon has been sending so-called insurance payments to her and wants to know exactly who this woman is. Joshua explains that Helene was Francois' wife and that Lyon is only trying to support her and Nicole. Cynthia's concern immediately turns personal, and she demands to know whether Lyon is romantically involved with his sister-in-law. Joshua shuts that down quickly, explaining that Lyon doesn't even go to her doorstep and Helene has no idea he is behind the money. Satisfied for the moment, Cynthia tells Joshua to make sure Lyon keeps earning for both of them, then orders Russell to watch the pair more closely. Lyon soon jogs past Nicole again, and this time she excitedly calls him over to show off her new bike. Their moment is cut short when the two Legion officers finally confront him. Sergeant Hartog and Mustafa inform Lyon that they have orders to take him back to the Legion. Lyon doesn't deny what he's done. Instead, he begs for one more week, just enough time to make the money Helene and Nicole need before he disappears from their lives again. The officers refuse. Lyon runs, but they eventually corner him. What follows is far uglier than his underground matches. Hartog and Mustafa beat him brutally, but Lyon refuses to surrender and eventually uses the overhead structure around them to take both men down. Russell arrives just as the fight ends, confirming that he has already figured out Lyon's secret. Sirens begin closing in, and Russell offers him a simple choice: deal with him or deal with the police. At the hospital, a doctor delivers even worse news. Lyon has a broken rib and should stay in bed for at least a month, joking that he might even consider taking karate lessons while he's at it. Cynthia arrives outside, causing a scene until she finally gets to see him. She claims she rushed over the moment she heard what happened and immediately notices the blood on his clothes. When she asks whether he plans to stay overnight, Lyon dryly wonders when she started caring. Cynthia apologizes for the things she said earlier and admits that if she had understood the truth about his family, she would have helped. Lyon tells her he needs that help now, and Cynthia promises she'll do whatever he wants. At the same time, Joshua visits Helene with far more serious news. She and Nicole need to leave their home because they may be in danger. Lyon steps inside, and the entire insurance story immediately falls apart. Helene realizes there was never any policy. Joshua finally admits that Lyon has been risking his life in underground fights just to keep money coming to her and Nicole. Lyon explains that the men she saw outside followed him from North Africa because they know he has been visiting her. Helene immediately wants nothing to do with any of it if drugs are involved, but Lyon assures her that isn't the case. He doesn't have much time before the Legion takes him back, and all he wants is the chance to make sure she and Nicole are safe before that happens. Helene finally relents. For the first time, she properly introduces Lyon to Nicole as her uncle. While Lyon is finally being welcomed into the family he crossed half the world to reach, Cynthia is making plans of her own. She and Russell meet with Hartog and Mustafa and show them footage of Lyon's fights. Cynthia explains that Lyon is one of her best fighters, which is why she refuses to hand him over just yet. She has one final match planned against an undefeated champion named Attila. Once Lyon loses, the Legionnaires can take him. She also wants them to keep the arrangement secret from their superiors. Hartog and Mustafa agree, but only if they're allowed to watch the fight. With Helene and Nicole moved somewhere safer, Lyon and Joshua help bring groceries into their new place. Lyon makes it clear that he never wants them returning to the old apartment. The walls between him and Helene are finally beginning to come down when Joshua interrupts with news that Cynthia and Russell are waiting outside. Cynthia drives them away in her limo and explains that some very important people want to meet Lyon. These wealthy investors are preparing to bet on his upcoming fight, and Russell claims there is enough money involved for all of them to retire. When they arrive, one investor tells Lyon he has watched his fight footage and is impressed. Another is far less convinced after reviewing footage of his previous matches, while a third mentions a friend from Hong Kong who believes Attila will wipe the floor with him. Lyon calmly admits that it's possible, but Cynthia quickly dismisses his modesty and promises them that Lyon will eat Attila for breakfast. The investors decide to wait until fight day before placing their bets. While Cynthia and Russell head to the airport to collect Attila, Lyon spends what little little time he has left bonding with Helene and Nicole. By the day of the fight, everything he crossed the world for is finally within reach. All he needs is one last victory. Joshua comes to check on him and playfully throws a few punches, but one lands against Leon's ribs. His reaction instantly gives him away. Joshua realizes Leon has been fighting with broken ribs. He begs him to cancel the match, but Leon refuses. Instead, he tells Joshua to bet every last penny they have on him. Leon plans to beat Attila, make enough money to finally escape this underground world, and take Joshua, Cynthia, Helene, and Nicole with him. Joshua warns him that Cynthia doesn't care about him and urges him to think about himself for once. But Leon simply asks him to trust him. At the betting table, Joshua notices that the odds heavily favor Attila and asks Cynthia who she's backing. Cynthia turns the question around, wondering whether Joshua suddenly has doubts about his fighter. More importantly, she asks whether there's something about Leon she should know, but Joshua keeps the broken ribs to himself. Cynthia reminds him that he has only 5 minutes left to place his bet. Meanwhile, Helene and Nicole pack their belongings as Joshua escorts Leon toward the arena. Attila enters, removes his glasses and jacket, and begins circling him. Leon strikes first with a rapid series of punches before landing a kick that sends Attila flying into the crowd. Attila gets back up furious. He absorbs Leon's next attack and suddenly drives a punch straight into his injured ribs. The weakness is exposed immediately. Attila asks what's wrong and starts targeting the same spot again and again, hammering Leon's ribs before smashing him across the face. Cynthia watches with a smile as Attila moves in for the finish. Leon manages to kick him away, but Attila closes the distance again, pounds his ribs, knocks him to the ground, and even steps on his hands while circling him, and Cynthia is laughing. Leon finally understands what she has done. She secretly bet against him. Joshua begs him to surrender, but Leon asks whether his friend at least placed the bet on him. He already knows Cynthia backed Attila. Ignoring every warning to quit, Leon gets up and walks straight back into another beating. Joshua begs him to stay down. This time, he reveals something even worse. He bet all of their money on Attila too. Joshua promises to split the winnings with Leon if he simply stops fighting, but Leon angrily tells him,
Wrong bet.
The crowd slowly begins clapping for him. Even one of the Legionnaires joins in. Leon fires back with a kick that sends Attila stumbling. Joshua's expression immediately changes as Leon begins unloading kick after kick. The entire crowd rises behind him, while Attila is driven backward until Leon finally sends him crashing into the opponent's stand. For a moment, Leon has the chance to finish him. Instead, he walks away. The fight is over. Hartog and Mustafa congratulate him and begin leading him out while Cynthia storms away furious. Some of her biggest investors sarcastically thank her for the wonderful betting advice, leaving her to face the enormous loss she created for herself. Before Leon is taken away, Joshua stops him. He tells Leon that he definitely has heart and begs him never to lose it, because once it's gone, he'll never get it back. The two men hug. Cynthia tries slipping away before anyone can collect what she owes, but security stops her and demands payment. She promises she'll have the money the following day. Leon, meanwhile, gets one final chance to see Helene and Nicole. He tells Nicole that she and her mother will have to leave without him, but the little girl refuses to accept it. She keeps insisting it isn't fair and begs her uncle to come with them.
I know life is not too fair, and sometimes it's ugly and stupid and mean, but sometimes life is beautiful too. I've got to go back to an ugly place, and if I don't, I'll be running for the rest of my life, and you and your mommy will be running with me.
I don't care.
Nicole, Sherry, you've seen too much ugly already.
What about you?
I always have something beautiful to remember.
Leon shares an emotional goodbye with both of them before asking Joshua to take care of his family. Hartog and Mustafa place Leon into their car and drive away, but they don't get very far. After traveling only a short distance, the two Legionnaires stop the vehicles and tell Leon to get out. After everything they witnessed, the reason he deserted, the punishment he endured, and the lengths he went to for his family, they decide to let him go. They wish him luck. Leon immediately runs back toward the house where Nicole, Helene, and Joshua are waiting, finally returning to the family he risked everything to reach.